Hello there, and it's Crescento here, and I'm in my shack. What's the shack? Okay, the shack is a tiny house, tiny home, log cabin, self-build, temporary structure. It's basically a big shed or a man cave. It all came about one Christmas when my brother Trenders and I were having a little bit of Christmas spirit, and we were talking about houses and places to live, so on. And I mentioned that I'd love to have a log cabin in the middle of the woods. Well, we're not exactly in the middle of the woods, and I don't know if you can see, it's getting dark, but there are trees around, so we've got the feel. But the shack is basically a log cabin. The first thing we had to do was look at lots and lots of YouTubes, get self-build ideas, how to do it, legal requirements, so that we covered ourselves. There are different rules and regulations depending upon where you build the structure, how big it is and what you use it for. This video won't be going into that because it's going to be different wherever. But suffice to say, this structure had to be less than 50% of the footprint of the land itself. It couldn't be any more than 3 meters high, and it had to be quite away from borders. But apart from that, it's a temporary structure. The shack was built in 2 stages. Firstly, the main body. I was going to say it's an oblong. It's not equal size. The 2 long walls are 7 meters. And at either end, there are different size walls. Behind you, there's a 3-meter wall, which is where the living room is. And behind me, where the bedroom is, this wall is actually 4 meters. So it's, yes, whatever you call it, it's a mathematical size. Not all the walls are the same length. I've just looked it up. It's an isosceles trapezium. There you go. Who knew? All the materials to build this structure came from builders' suppliers such as B&Q. The only exception is the cladding on the outside, which is Waney Edge cedar, and that came from a sawmill. So without further ado, here's a time lapse of the build. I hope you enjoy it. The shack was built upon a piece of land that hadn't been dug or moved for many years, so it was a nice firm piece of land to build on. Once the levels were found, it was just a matter of taking off the grass, putting down some sand and cement, and the concrete blocks on top. Well, like I said, there were no real plans to this build, so when it came to windows, it literally was holding it in the air and seeing what it looked like. Sometimes it was even put against the hedge. Rather than using wooden posts as bearers, we decided to use recycled plastic posts. These are strong and firm, but also have the added bonus that they don't let any damp up into the building. We put a weed suppressing membrane underneath everything and then started to build the floor. Because the timbers were so heavy, this had to be done in 2 parts and then screwed together. So next it's time to put the frame together. This is basically done exactly the same as the floor, and again it's done sectional because the 2 long sides are far too long to build in one go, so they're built in 2 and then screwed together. With the framework now complete, it's ready to be clad in OSB board, and it begins to take on its form as a structure. My brother Trenders hated me taking photographs if he was going to be in the shot, and he'd only allow me to do it if he could do a silly pose or a cheesy grin. The only part of the build that Trenders wasn't happy to do was the roof. So when it came to that, we got a specialist company in who came and put on this felt roof. With the roof on, it's time to make the rest of the building waterproof. So here we have the waterproof breathable membrane, and then the pink battening which will hold the cladding. One of the most expensive elements of the build was the cladding for the outside, and this was waney edged cedar. Waney edge just basically means it still has the bark on the outside of the tree. To cut down on costs, and around the back of the shack we've used tannalized boards. Cedar is a very oily wood, so it's not prone to rotting or pest infestation, and you can leave it as it is and it will last for a good 25 to 30 years. However, we did use a preservative. This is a preservative which is absolutely clear, so when it dries there's very little sheen and you still see the wood coming through. So with your project finished, you can sit back and relax and enjoy your shack. Or you can decide to build an extension. And with the extension added, we're now complete. Oh no, we're not. There's still the inside to do. One of the big jobs inside is the insulation. So we bought this silver-backed insulation board, which needs to be cut exactly to fit all the wooden structures. This was a long job. Lots of insulation. Lots of cutting. Filling in every single gap. And after that, it all had to be taped. All the joints are taped, so no air can come in or out. Putting in the insulation was a big job, but with the ceiling, the walls and under the floor insulated, it has meant that since then, this entire structure can be heated with 200 watts. 200 watts of a radiator even through the winter. The main room of the shack is living area and bedroom. The extension was put on to put a shower and lavatory and a small kitchen. Now obviously these needed doors. Being such a small structure, we decided to use sliding doors, and we were lucky enough to find some second-hand doors that we could repurpose. I wanted a real rustic feel for the kitchen and the bathroom, and so on the wall we sourced a load of pallets, took them apart and used this as a feature, and together with the shower we have corrugated tin. Although the kitchen's tiny, it's got just about everything you need. Running water with the sink, a small tabletop oven, which also has hot plates on top, the microwave, and a mini fridge and a mini freezer. For the interior decor, I wanted something a little bit different. I wanted, cabin in the woods, a little bit eccentric, few stuffed animals and things. From the bedroom you can see I didn't go for any form of wardrobes. Everything's on show and I quite like it like that. The main room in the shack is one large area. Within that area there are 3 zones: the sitting room, a study area and the bedroom. There aren't any walls, so what I've done, I've used different effects on the walls, different types of wood. I've used furniture to partly block off areas and then use these curtains. Well, when I say curtains, they're actually dust sheets that are hung up, but it gives the idea. To add to that, I've put down different types of flooring just to zone each area. It's turned out to be a very cosy little shack and I love it. And of course, what better time of year than at Christmas when it's dark and you can put your twinkly lights out. And of course, on a summer's evening, it's lovely to fling the doors open and enjoy the outside as well. So what did you think of the build? Let me know in the comments below. I'll do some videos of the inside where we look into how it's been laid out and the various things that are here. But for now, hope you enjoyed it. See you soon.